Welcome to SCARETOPIA. In this installment, we delve into the shadows of the night where the clinking of glasses and the hum of conversation provide the backdrop for eerie and unsettling encounters that occurred within the dimly lit corners of bars. The summer after college was all about letting loose and making memories with my friends. We decided to spend a weekend in Calgary. There were 4 of us, me, my bestie Lisa, and 2 of our buddies, Trisha and Shayla. We were young, wild, and free, ready to conquer the world. Our first night in the city, we hit up a bar that was pumping with music and energy. The place was lit, and we all had a good buzz going after getting our drink on and taking a few shots, and the 4 of us were having a blast. That's when I noticed him. A tall, dark, and handsome guy standing off to the side of the dance floor. He caught my eye, and before I knew it, we were dancing together. I was attracted to him right away, and our flirty dance moves soon turned into a chat. My friends were giving me the side eye, trying to tell me he might not be all that, but I was in my own little bubble, enjoying the attention. As we tried to get to know each other over the music, he seemed like a nice guy. He said his name was Ethan, and he had a sense of humor that had me cracking up. But then, like something out of a soap opera, the plot twisted. A girl stormed over to us, her eyes shooting daggers at me. She was gorgeous, but mad as hell. It didn't take a genius to figure out that she was Ethan's girlfriend.
"Who do you think you are, flirting with my man?"
She hissed at me. I tried to backpedal, stammering something about not knowing he had a girlfriend, but she was having none of it. She looked me dead in the eye and said,
"You effed up big time. You have no idea what I'm capable of."
My friends pulled me away from the brewing storm of drama, the woman's ominous threat echoing in my head. At first, I laughed it off, thinking it was just an alcohol-fueled threat from an upset girlfriend. My friends thought so too, and we decided it was best to leave the bar and call it a night. We walked out into the warm summer night, our laughter and carefree spirits slowly returning. But then, as we turned down a dimly lit street, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and a shiver ran down my spine. I looked over my shoulder and saw a shadowy figure following us. Fear gripped me, and I whispered to my friends that we were being followed. They turned around, and Shayla's eyes widened in alarm. "That guy from the bar," she said, recognizing the shadowy figure as Ethan. We quickened our pace, hoping to lose him in the maze of city streets, but Ethan wasn't giving up. He continued to trail us, his footsteps echoing eerily in the deserted streets. The city had transformed from a hype party scene to something out of a horror movie. My heart pounded as we took a sudden turn onto a side street, our footsteps echoing off the nearby buildings. Shayla, Lisa, and Trisha were all unnerved, casting worried glances in my direction. I was the one who dragged them into this mess. Suddenly, the street came to a dead end and we were trapped. My friends huddled close to me, and Lisa whispered,
"Maybe you should just talk to him and figure out what he wants."
With trembling hands, I turned around to face Ethan. He was there, lurking a few feet behind us. "What do you want?" I demanded, trying to sound strong and unafraid. Ethan's face was a mix of anger and desperation as he stammered. "I'm sorry, she's crazy. I don't know what she's capable of. She's got this insane idea that you and I did more than just talk. Can you just come with me and talk to her so we can get this all settled?" "Hell no," yelled Shayla. "You deal with your psycho girlfriend yourself, bro." Ethan looked at me with a look of desperation and said, "Can you please just come? It won't take long, I promise." The way he said this made me suspicious. It was like he had rehearsed it or something. Maybe he had been in this situation before. "I'm not going near her. This is messed up, but it's on you."
My friends had joined me, forming a united front. Ethan's demeanor totally changed as his eyes went dark. He reached out and grabbed my arm and started to pull me away, saying, "You just need to come with me, okay?" Trisha slapped his arm and my friends started to pull me back towards them. Ethan's grip tightened and I told him to let go, but he just ignored us and kept pulling me as my friends hit him and tried to get him to let go. Shayla pulled out her phone and called 911 as Ethan continued to pull me. Lisa started screaming for help and a group of people down the street looked over at us and a few of them started walking our way. One of them yelled, "Hey, let go of her," and I heard Ethan mutter something under his breath. He turned around and looked at me as my friends kept wailing on him, and he said, "You should have just come with me. Now she'll never let this go. You better watch your back." With that, he finally let go and took off running. A couple guys chased him for a few blocks before giving up and returning to where we waited for the cops. The strangers stayed with us and made sure we were okay until the cops came and interviewed everyone. We finally made it back to our hotel, the fear still clinging to us like a bad dream. The rest of the night was filled with uneasy sleep and troubling thoughts. What did Ethan mean, and what was his psycho girlfriend really capable of? Was it just an empty threat or something more serious? The next day, we tried to put the strange encounter behind us and enjoy the rest of our trip, but there was always a nagging feeling that we were being watched. Every shadow, every unfamiliar face made us jump. The city that had once seemed so carefree and fun now felt like a trap. We never saw Ethan or his girlfriend again during our trip, and as the days passed, the unease gradually faded. We returned home with our memories of our time in Calgary, the good and the strange and unsettling. I worry, though, that Ethan and his girlfriend are out there playing their little game with other unsuspecting victims. But I hope that my terrifying encounter was just an isolated incident. In November of 2016, I was out with my friends for a night on the town. We decided to hit up our favorite bar in the heart of Portland, a place known for its energetic vibe and pulsating dance floor. It was a typical night, filled with laughter, dancing, and the sort of carefree spirit that comes with being young. Little did I know, this night would take an unexpected turn, leaving me shaken to my core. The bar was packed, as always, with the bass of the music vibrating through the floor. My friends and I found a cozy corner to call our own, laughing and sipping our drinks. The atmosphere was electric, with people swaying to the music and the colorful lights dancing across the faces of the crowd. It was the kind of night where the worries of the world seemed far away, and all that mattered was the here and now. But as the night wore on, I noticed something unsettling. In the midst of the throbbing crowd, a stranger stood out like a sore thumb. He was a tall, lanky man, his gaunt face hidden in the shadows of a hooded sweatshirt. His eyes, however, gleamed like two slivers of ice, sharp and unsettling. He wasn't dancing, wasn't even talking to anyone. He was just watching. At first, I dismissed it, but as the night progressed, I couldn't shake the feeling that those icy eyes were fixed on me. He was everywhere I looked, lurking in the background, always at a distance, but never out of sight. My friends noticed my unease and tried to reassure me, telling me it was all in my head. They said I was overreacting, that I shouldn't let one creepy guy ruin our night. I wanted to believe them, to let it all slide, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching us. As the night wore on, my friends and I decided to hit the dance floor. The music pulsed through our bodies, and we let ourselves get lost in the rhythm. The crowd was a whirlwind of colors and movement, and for a while I almost forgot about the creepy stranger. But as I twirled and danced with my friends, I noticed something that sent shivers down my spine. There he was, right in the middle of the dance floor, his hooded figure swaying to the music like a phantom. I felt a lump in my throat and my heart began to race. How had he managed to follow me here into the heart of the crowd? Even though I was surrounded by a sea of dancing bodies, I felt alone and vulnerable. The bass kicked in and the crowd surged, and the smoke machine, combined with the black lights and strobes, made it disorienting. Somehow I got separated from my friends. Hoping to lose this strange man in the crowd, I ducked into a corner of the bar, a spot where the strobe lights didn't reach. It was quieter there, and I leaned against the wall, trying to catch my breath and regain my composure. And then I felt a presence behind me. The temperature seemed to drop, and I knew, without looking, that he was there. I slowly turned around, and there he was, his hooded face inches from mine. His eyes bore into me, cold and lifeless, and a crooked smile played on his lips. "You have been selected," he whispered, his voice sending chills down my spine. I stumbled back, panic coursing through my veins. How had he found me so easily? What did he want from me? The stranger simply turned and melted back into the darkness of the crowded bar, leaving me shaken and trembling. I rushed to find my friends, desperately telling them about the unsettling encounter. They were as bewildered as I was, unable to explain how the stranger had managed to be everywhere I went. We decided it was time to leave, the joy of the night replaced by fear and confusion. As we exited the bar, I couldn't shake the feeling that those icy eyes were still on me, watching from the shadows. It took me a few weeks before I was ready to go out to the bar again, but I'm definitely not going back there. I'm trying to forget about the whole ordeal, but from time to time, I still think that I catch glimpses of that creepy man and have nightmares about that effed up phrase, "You've been selected." I mean, who says that, and what does that even mean?
In the crisp autumn air, I found myself in a small, unwelcoming town that felt like it had never seen an outsider before. My girlfriend, whom I'd met online, brought me to her hometown for the first time. The town was like something out of a horror movie, with its eerie quietness and the way everyone seemed to stare at me as soon as I stepped foot in it. But despite my unease, I followed her to her favorite bar that night. The bar was dimly lit with flickering neon signs casting an unsettling glow on the patrons. As we walked in, it felt as though time stood still and every eye in the place was fixed on me. The locals, many of them burly bikers, exuded an aura of toughness that made my heart race with anxiety. My discomfort only grew as the night wore on. While my girlfriend chatted freely with the regulars, I felt like an outsider, a stranger in a town that wanted nothing to do with me. I tried my best to blend in, to ignore the piercing stares that seemed to follow my every move. As the night wore on, I found myself alone at our table when my girlfriend excused herself to go to the restroom. It was then that two rough-looking dudes approached me, their eyes cold and calculating. They cornered me, their words sharp as knives, cutting through the thin veneer of my composure. "Hey there, city boy," one of them sneered, his breath reeking of alcohol. "You think you can just waltz in here and take over our town?" I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. I don't want any trouble. I'm just here with my girlfriend." But they weren't interested in my pleas.
They continued their taunts, their laughter echoing in the cramped space. Just as I thought I couldn't bear it any longer, my girlfriend returned, her presence momentarily warding off my tormentors. The bullies disappeared into the crowd. I mustered the courage to tell her what had happened. "We need to leave," I urged, my voice urgent. "I can't stay here any longer. It's not safe." But she dismissed my concerns, her eyes clouded with a strange indifference. "Oh, they're just playing around. You're overreacting." Overreacting? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I pleaded with her, my desperation evident. "Please, let's go. I can't shake off this feeling. Something is very wrong here." Yet she remained unmoved, unwilling to acknowledge my fear. "I'm not ready to leave," she said stubbornly, turning back to her conversation with the locals as if nothing had happened. I was left stranded, a lone outsider, in a sea of locals who seemed to harbor ill intentions. Every glance, every whispered conversation felt like a threat, a reminder that I didn't belong. The tension in the air was thick, suffocating me as I struggled to maintain my composure. I tried to make sense of the situation, but my surroundings only grew darker, more menacing. The people around me seemed to close in, their eyes glinting with hostility. As my girlfriend got caught up in conversation with the locals, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around to see an older man with a scraggly gray beard that hung down to his belt and tattoos on his forehead. He leaned in and whispered in my ear, "She's too good for you." I swallowed hard, not knowing how to respond. As I desperately searched for something to say or to catch my girlfriend's eyes and plead with her to help, the man leaned in again. This time he said, "If you go home with her tonight, I will guarantee it'll be the worst decision of your life. I think it's time that you hit the road." As he finished speaking, I felt his hand squeeze my shoulder, and for a moment my arm went numb. As my girlfriend turned around, he let go, gave me 2 hard slaps on the shoulder, and then walked away. I looked at my girlfriend and around the bar and knew that there was no winning in this situation. There was no way I could speak to her about the threats that the man had just made with so many of her friends within earshot. For all I knew, they were all working together as they terrified me, seemingly enjoying watching me squirm. As I took one final survey of the room, I realized that I believed 100% that the man with the tattoos on his forehead meant what he said. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, I stood up, my voice trembling. "I can't stay here. If you won't leave with me, then I'll have to go alone." I left the bar, my heart pounding in my chest, and ventured into the night, the cold wind biting at my skin. As I walked away, I cast one last glance back at the bar, my girlfriend's figure barely visible through the smudged windows. In that moment, I knew I had made the right choice. I had escaped the clutches of a town that had welcomed me with hostility, a town where I felt like prey among predators. And as I disappeared into the darkness, I vowed never to return, haunted by the eerie memory of that fateful night.